Today we're going to show you how to change a door switch kit on your dishwasher, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a number 15 Torx bit, a pair of wire strippers, and a small flat blade screwdriver. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, since we will be working near some electrical circuits, we'll need to disconnect the power to the dishwasher. So locate the fuse or circuit breaker and disconnect it there, or if it has a plug on it, simply unplug it from the receptacle. Next, we're going to open the dishwasher door fully and remove any cutlery that's in the basket or the basket. And then we're going to remove the 8 number 15 Torx screws that hold the inner door panel to the outer door panel. Now once we've removed all of the screws, we'll next separate the inner panel from the outer panel. And then we can set the inner panel aside. We'll next release 2 little plastic locking tabs that hold the cover over the control panel. And then lift that away and set it aside. Now next, we can either remove the wires from the existing door switch, or we can just cut those wires with our strippers as they sit in place. Now once we've cut the wires from the switch terminals, we can next take our strippers and we'll peel back about 1/4 of an inch of that insulation. This is about a number 16 gauge wire, and do that to all 4 wires. Now that we've cut and stripped the 2 sets of wires for the outside switches, and if your model is an electronic model, it'll have a 3rd switch with low voltage wires on it, and we are going to leave that switch alone. It's just the 2 outer switches that have the brown black and the white purple wires to them. Those are the ones we're going to cut and then strip the actual harness that comes from the control panel. We'll next take the switch assembly and we're going to put that on a suitable work surface where we can remove the pins and replace the switches. Alright, with the switch assembly out of the dishwasher, we can next remove the 2 plastic pins that hold the switches to the assembly. So we'll just push those out with our small flat blade. We can discard the old pins. And we can also discard the old switches along with the excess wire terminals that we cut off. Now next we'll install the new switches. So we're going to set them into the assembly. We're going to line up the push button to the upper end where the handle is, and you'll see the 2 bumpers that will push up against the push button on the switch. So we'll set those into place. And we'll start the new plastic pins into the switch to hold them in position, and then push that pin all the way through until it snaps in place. And do the same with the second one. We're now ready to install the assembly back in the dishwasher door. Now the next step in our repair will be to connect the wire harness and terminal block to the existing wire harness in the dishwasher. And we need to make sure that we keep the color codes the same. So we'll start by making sure that the stripped wire is twisted nice and tight, and we're going to insert it fully in the terminal block. And then with our small flat blade, we'll tighten that set screw, and then we need to make sure that it got a good firm connection on it. So just pull on the wire, make sure that there's no movement, and we'll continue to do that with all 4 wires. And again, make sure that we test each one of them individually. And once you're satisfied that you have all the connections nice and tight, we'll install terminals to the switches. And we just need to make sure that we keep the brown and the black ones on one switch and the white and the white purple on the second switch. And if your model was an electronic model that had a center switch, we'll just make sure that that's reinserted in between. When reinstalling the wire terminals, I find it a little more helpful if we point these switch terminals straight up. Make sure they're firmly inserted on the terminals on the switch. Then position the latch back into the door and verify again that the terminals on that terminal block are secure and the wires are not loose in it. And then we can put the cover back on the control panel. And you'll need to be able to tuck that harness inside that square opening. And make sure the tabs on the end are properly engaged. And now we're ready for the inner door panel. Now when reinstalling the inner panel to the outer panel, we need to make sure that this mechanism for the rinse aid and detergent cup lines up with the tab that protrudes from the timer. It will fit in this little gap and will self-adjust if we get it clamped over top fit straight. So the trick is to lay the inner panel in place. We'll hook the lip into the inside of the tub first, and we'll carefully lower that panel down, lining it up height-wise before we press it into place. And I suggest we just hold it together there by hand. We'll close the detergent cup, and then without closing the door, we're going to rotate the timer dial into the wash cycle, and just part way into that wash cycle in around the 1 o'clock position, you should hear that soap cup open up. If it doesn't, just rotate it all the way around, and you will see that it has opened. We know we have it lined up properly. We can now reinstall the screws. Now that we have all the screws back in place, we can close the door up. Make sure that it latches and unlatches properly. We can actually start a cycle, verify that the switches are operating properly, and your repair is complete.